What's up, real world PDR? So because of some time constraints, I didn't get to make this a full lesson, but this is a great example of how to start really big dents. Hey, what's going on? This is Jim with Real World PDR. Today we're gonna take a look at this gnarly fender damage. So it looks a lot scarier than it has to be. If we dent map this thing out, what we're gonna see is that we have a big old dent. Also, this big gnarly crown. Now the crown is gonna be a little too tight for me to just attack it directly. So using my handy dandy dent dial, craftsman hammer, and a slapper tapper, we're gonna try to soften that up. We're gonna try to keep this clean. We're also on a time limit. The customer doesn't have a whole lot of time for this. So let's see what we can do in the time that we have, and let's get it going. So during this time, I'm actually talking to the guy that we're training for our shop as an extra hand. So I'm gonna make sure to put a whole bunch of heat on this. So I'm gonna take this time to really explain what we're going for here. What we're doing is I'm showing off how exactly we are going to start big dents, because as I've mentioned before, the way you start big ass dents is often indicative of the way that you're going to finish big ass dents. So if you are on realworldpdr.com, you know lately I've been talking about how do we fix a lot of a dent without having to touch it, because the more of that you do, the better finish that you're going to have. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use this dent dial to apply pressure to the back of the dent. Basically what we're gonna be doing is giving our crowns a roadmap. Hey, crown, follow the pressure and I'm going to replace you. So that means whenever this panel was impacted and this dent was caused, I'm gonna be replacing all of this displaced metal. Also, what you're gonna notice here is there's about 3-4 minutes of actual action happening on this dent, and we're gonna get this thing to like 60% in 3 minutes. So that's all about knowing what in the hell you're doing. So right now, I'm doing what I like to call picking up the slack. Basically, what is this dent going to give me? What is it just gonna hand to me? I'm gonna take. So once the dent has handed me everything it's just gonna give away freely, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply that pressure using that big, wide, soft leather tip on this dent dial. Then I'm going to use, in my case, I'm going to use this craftsman hammer to start directing those crowns where I'd like them to go. So many times dent guys get into this pick up the lows, knock down the highs attitude. Now that is a dangerous attitude. Now I guess at the core, yeah, that's basically what we're doing, but what I want you to think is directional movement. I don't want you to think just up and down. I want you to think replacement of displacement. So many lessons on realworldpdr.com cover this exact topic. Why? Because it is the essence of big dent repair. You cannot successfully fix big dents in any kind of reasonable time frame if you don't have this concept. So what you're getting ready to see is a lot of action on this dent, and that is not because I'm pushing harder on the dent dial. That's not the case. What's happening is these crowns are being replaced to where the metal was to begin with. That's going to be its most relaxed position. So as I loosen up these crowns, it's going to feed back into the dent, thus making the dent come up. So back to the absurd statement that I made earlier, that is how I'm going to repair a lot of this dent without having to touch it. If I don't have to push on this dent, I don't get push marks. Thusly, my texture stays better. Yes, I use the word thusly again. I like the word thusly. Don't mess with my thusly. So I'm working from the sharpest part of that crown, which a lot of times is going to be the point. So a lot of times crowns are kind of shaped like triangles. So the point of that triangle is going to hold the most pressure. So I'm applying my outward pressure directly underneath where the high crown pressure is. That's going to soften up that crown. By the time you finish the lessons on Real World PDR, you will definitely be able to tell what kind of crowns are willing to work with you just visually. But a good rule of thumb is just poke around, just try. Anytime that you're fighting a dent, you're probably doing that dent wrong. And like all things PDR related, don't expect this to be a super fast process. At the end of the day, this is super fast, but you can't rush it. You gotta let this dent work with you. That means developing the skills that I will teach you on realworldpdr.com to see every hammer strike, to really understand what each individual push is doing there. That's a whole lot of movement that could not have happened had I not loosened up those crowns. I also just posted a super advanced tutorial on realworldpdr.com that does this same technique with glue. It's a huge door dent that completely makes up for the dent that I failed in the fail video here on YouTube. So just because I got some good action once doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop with the same technique. I'm gonna keep using this technique until it's not useful anymore. As long as I'm not doing anything that's gonna cause me a problem in the future, I might as well keep doing this. So really, don't get laser beam focused on any one thing because you won't catch those problems if you're too focused. You gotta take in the entire picture, the entire view of what this dent is doing for you. In the next several seconds, you're gonna see a lot more movement. The same kind of movement that's all driven by that crown replacement. So the reason I'm gonna stop using this technique here soon is because I don't wanna develop a blowout in that fender. You can see that it's kind of wanting to start to buckle on me just behind where that scratch is. I've got a real sweet technique using a dent dial and a ratchet strap to prevent blowouts, and I teach that at realworldpdr.com. Do you guys remember what that website is? It's realworldpdr.com. One more time for those in the back, realworldpdr.com. Okay, so the jingle is a work in progress. Maybe somebody a little more musically inclined can take care of that for me. Okay, like I said in the beginning of this video, because of the time constraints, I didn't have enough time to make this into an entire lesson, but I didn't want to waste this footage because this is a great example of how to start large dents. Remember, the point here is the least I can touch this, the less I can touch this, the better it's going to be. I don't want to create an overworked mess, and I want this dent to work with me. I don't want to have to fight it and cause push marks and texture that I have to deal with later. Okay, so as you see here, that might have surprised you. That might not be what you expected us to be doing here, but I was able to move that, and now hopefully I've explained how that happened. I was able to move the vast majority of that dent without fighting it. It wanted to give me what it was giving up because as I was putting the pressure on that dent dial, I was knocking that displaced crown back to where it was supposed to be. So you just kind of naturally let it come. Don't fight your dents. This kind of thing looks way scarier than it is. If you do it correctly, you can keep good texture. You can avoid modeling, flipping that flake, and get it done really quickly. So that's it. Thank you so much for your support now and in the future. And please, if you haven't yet, visit realworldpdr.com, your place for the best, no bullshit, no fluff, no sales gimmicks, PDR training on the internet.